So most people go into this expecting that the third one is gonna pop, or like the fifth one is gonna bring in like 1,000 followers. Clients are knocking at the door. That just doesn't happen.
And just that small anecdote makes a huge amount of difference.
As you're scrolling through your feed, if you stop and read something, and even if you don't interact with it, that is also engagement.
Today's topic is social media, where we will decode the power of social media in today's age for creatives and how they can build their own brand and voice. So, let me start with the first question. How many followers do you have, and does it matter to you?
I have different platforms and different followings, follower counts on each. Instagram is 30,000, 30,000, and LinkedIn is just about to hit 10,000. I just reached 9,000. Behance, money. Behance is another one that I've been using very, sporadically. I'm not consistent on it. That has 5 or 6 or something like that, 6,000. But a lot of views on Behance as opposed to some of the other platforms. But yeah, these are the three primary ones. I'm gonna let you give your numbers, and then I'm gonna answer the other question, which is, does it matter to me?
For sure. I'd say I have around like 2,000 followers on Instagram on my design account, and LinkedIn kind of similar, like 1,500 followers. And Behance, again, the similar range of like 5,000, 3,000 kind of views, somewhere there in between, like less followers, more views.
Do you use anything else?
I think just these three mainly. Twitter's just to kind of like stalk people and what they have to say about the world.
are you are you also building a newsletter? Because I am, and I've just reached 900 subscribers, which is pretty much nothing, but I'd count that in.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're on Substack, right?
I'm using Beehive.
Yeah, I think newsletters are also like a hybrid kind of social media. So I'd count that in. Yes, I do have a newsletter. I think somewhere around like uh, 20 isolated followers
Damn.
spread around the world. But
Really spreading the heat, man. Calm down, dude.
guys, if you're watching this,
Cool. And just for clarity, let's just club all our followers together. So for me, that number looks like 40, 45K. And for you, I'll say something around 5K ish. Is that
yeah,
fair?
5. Yeah, 3. But we could do 5.
Round it off to 7, please.
Yeah, and add another 3 just for luck. Do these followers, like, what's your opinion? Do they matter to you? How do you view the amount of followers you have on your socials?
I think yes. For me, it is just knowing that there is a place for me to share my thoughts, and there's going to be people to see it. It's like you're going to play a sport, and if nobody sees it, then you can't feed off of their energy, nor can you give them that energy that you have. So I am personally someone who's driven by this like constant feedback loop, and even if it's just like validation and likes, that also I consider as feedback, because of all the people that I've gotten over to my profile through my work or post or content or whatever you want to call it. I've been able to do so much. Like, for example, I've been able to um, build a design community, help so many people through mentorships and connect so many people, just because what I've become is like a little bit of a design hub, especially back
Mm-hmm.
home in India, where, you know, my roots definitely show through in my work, and that also attracts like people like me. So mostly I would say it is super beneficial for me.
Yeah. At this point, would you say like your social media has to an extent sort of like gone beyond you and it's more of like community than when you started as like Shishant Varora posting digital sketches?
Yeah, I say on Instagram, yes, because that's the biggest pool, that's the biggest number. So
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram, it's definitely more of a community. On LinkedIn, still trying to find my voice. The way I see it is the world existed pretty much the same before social media in terms of like what success means. It's just that social media can augment that, and that is what was exciting to me. Hence the added effort.
There's I would say like a misconception about what social media is just in general, because the popular rhetoric or narrative is content creator, kind of leaning more towards the Mr. Beast side, lifestyle and stuff like that. Curious to know how you see designers can use social media differently than the popular rhetoric from your personal experience.
I've never seen social media like that, honestly. I've seen this as like a tool, literally a tool. Not it's not the social media part of it. It's the fact that it's a tool for me to test out my ideas. And a lot of people sort of see success in only one way, right? For them, success is many followers, many likes on their post, sponsors coming in, new job opportunities, whatever that looks like. So a lot of people use social media in a very sort of boxed in way, which is the tried and tested, how other people are using it, what they see online, and start to pursue the same, which I think is changing, and we need to challenge that. I think there's plenty of ways that you can use social media. Like for me, one of the ways is just testing out thoughts and opinions, right? I can put something out on Instagram or LinkedIn and just be like, hey guys, what do you think? I might not have a fully framed opinion, but that's just a starting point.
Yeah. I also think another cool way is also like sharing passion, right? Or they just do like illustrations or ceramics or like things they're doing outside of design. So that's like also another way I've seen people use it. Well,
The fact that you can find your voice and build your voice online through just sharing like things like your hobbies or your work, I think that's incredible.
though we kind of addressed it in the start, the obvious ones are also sort of like getting money, clients, kind of putting your practice out there, showing how you approach your process and things like that. That also sort of increases your scale of business as well and your reach. And
Yeah,
that's a pretty decent way to do it.
it's a great way to test out like your worth in the market as well. It's more than just visibility. You're also asking for feedback. Hey, is this good? Is this not?
For
And
sure.
that on a philosophical level exists beyond design as well, right? People try to
Yeah.
post the best travel pictures, the best fashion, or the best wardrobe, or best food that they're eating, because ultimately they want some feedback. You can argue most of the times the feedback they want is just a thumbs up and a validation for yes, you're doing awesome. But it's the same. It's the same thinking behind just gathering feedback in the first place.
Thank God there's no dislike button on Instagram. That would have been pretty bad for my mental health.
Cool. Let's get into strategies, right? How can somebody look at social media and not make a mess on it and potentially use it use it to their advantage, especially as a creative? One of the things I want to preface by saying is that the follower count, the one thing we started with, is not a metric for success. In fact, the funny thing is the place where I have the most followers is the place where I've won the least amount of work. I've barely ever taken on any Instagram projects or projects from inquiries on Instagram. The place where I have the least number of followers is actually the biggest sort of source of new projects for me, which is Behance.
Interesting. It reminds me of it's a bit off tangent, but it reminds me where apparently like on YouTube, the YouTube Shorts give you like a lot of reach. I was seeing this content creator kind of mentioning that the highest amount of views he has is on YouTube Shorts compared to his channel, but the most amount of engagement, traction, or value he gets from he's a travel blogger. Traction he gets from community is on the actual YouTube videos. He's like, though you see like those mind-boggling numbers on YouTube Shorts, that's not where I'm enjoying myself the most. So that's sort of like interesting comparison going on in my head. Yeah.
When social media is owned by literally people like Elon, you're always at the mercy of this holy grail algorithm. If it changes, your content strategy changes. If it doesn't show your work to the right people, it's because the algorithm is bad. If you're not getting likes and follows, it's because the algorithm did that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the notion I'll be challenging throughout the rest of the chat today. Because yes, a part of it is understanding what works online. Every platform has different strategies. What works on Instagram might not work on LinkedIn, and what works on a podcast will certainly not work on a
Yeah,
platform like
but
Threads.
I'm curious to know, like, one of the biggest things I keep hearing everywhere, right? Whether any kind of social media kind of thing, whether it's from a podcast to TikTok. Oh, we forgot TikTok.
Oh
we
yeah,
didn't
my
even
favorite TikTok.
we didn't even acknowledge TikTok's existence, and we're like 20 minutes into the podcast. Wow.
There's actually a
Uh,
brewing community of designers on TikTok. It's just like slightly like artistic designers. I haven't seen a lot of ID designers. Just more like
True.
here's like how I hacked up a pair of
A lot
pants
of
and
like
made it into
DIYers.
shorts. Yeah.
Yeah. So but one thing I keep hearing in all of these is like posting regularly, right? Like, how has that worked for you? I'm kind of curious to know because you dabble between all these platforms. Like, is that true? Posting regularly beats the algorithm?
100%. I if it doesn't beat the algorithm, then so the thing is you can't just like you can't keep posting the same shit again and again, like in terms of quality.
Like
Then like what's the
those
point?
NFT bots. I open their Instagram page and all of them are like the same post.
The thing I want to say is like yes, you got to post regularly, but you also have to improve in every post, and what that improvement looks like is completely up to you. I've heard Mr. B say this as well, like you post 100 videos, do something better in every video, whether that's 1% better or 5% better. After you posted 100 videos, then we can try to troubleshoot as to what's not working and what is working.
Yeah.
The thing is like you got to post regularly first to build that practice and that momentum for yourself than for others. Like if you have never done it, like you never posted your work online, never written anything on LinkedIn, never put up a project on Behance. So most people go into this expecting that the third one is gonna pop, or like the fifth one is gonna bring in like 1,000 followers, or like the
For
nth
sure.
time is where they completely blow up and clients are knocking at the door. This that just doesn't happen. So to answer your question, posting regularly to beat the algorithm is not the way to look at it, but posting regularly to build your muscle.
Bring it back to that Mr. Beast thing. Because I've seen him, he was doing podcasts for a brief period where he was like appearing on multiple podcasts where he was talking about social media. And I even shared like the video you're talking about where he is like, don't expect anything for your first 100 videos. Post your first 100 videos, then we'll talk. And which is very true, though we are in our like sixth episode. Like, I'm starting to see like few things that are working and not working, and I'm sure by like the 100th video or like the 100th content you're putting out, your brain is naturally going to start looking. But that's just like how human brains work. They're going to look for patterns. What people forget to mention with posting regularly is like what happens after you post regularly, right? Like, why does posting regularly work? Because you're seeing these things very intuitionally is what like my thesis is on that. They're like, okay, let's mix
Yeah.
with that, let's cut this off. So that's interesting. Say I've done my 100 posts, or like I've put in my work, I've like run out of like everything I have to say, and beyond that, like, how do you build something valuable? You can speak this to specific platforms, but I'm curious to know your take on like, how do you build value with your
Okay.
content?
This is going to be a bit of a monologue and probably longer than it should be.
All right,
But
3, 2, 1.
everybody buckle up.
We should put a jump cut saying 30 years later.
For me, it's like figuring out the game. What ticks people? What pushes them to engage with me? How do I post something so that I can try to gauge a response, whether that's positive or negative? And over time, it's been a
Yeah.
lot about like predicting that outcome already, and that's the thrill about it. Like I know this post is gonna pop, and I know this one's not gonna pop, but let's just try it. On Instagram, I can kind of predict. Like I know when I'm experimenting, figuring out a style, it's not gonna do well, but that's for me to practice. Other times, I'm like, okay, we've had too many posts with like no interactions, no likes whatsoever. We got to do what the audience likes.
For me, it's kind of similar in some ways where it's like most of like my low fidelity posts get the high engagement, like wherever I have like low, or it's like the super high fidelity render where it's like you can't tell if it's like real or like fake, where it's like the Photoshop composites of um like human image and the product. Anything in between is like it dies like after 2 days. What I like about in posts, like even in fact like your posts on LinkedIn or like other people that I follow on LinkedIn, is they have that cliche thing, that cliche title going on, and they kind of give their point of view of like how it worked for them. And
Yeah.
just that small anecdote makes a huge amount of difference as a person consuming. So like I'm telling like where value comes for me, and it can change for others. But giving that cliche thing, but also giving background from where you're coming from, gives a lot of value, because there's something I can anchor myself in and sort of like walk away with. And That's also a good conversation starter as well.
Yeah.
So
A lot of
yeah,
lot
those
of
work.
people a lot of people make such a big deal about value, right? Because everybody talks about like, how do I give value? What the hell is value? And completely fair. I never thought about giving value as such. I just know that now it's a term that people use to signify a few things. Value is something that makes you feel something. It's not necessarily like something that's closely related to advice. Value could also be
Yeah,
entertainment. Value is also
I'm
making you
gonna
laugh.
quote you on that. That's
Okay.
like very wholesome, where you said like value is something that makes you feel something, and I think
Yeah.
that's very true.
Damn.
Yeah,
I like that.
dude, like quote that shit. You heard it here first, guys.
I'm guessing that resonates with you, right? Like,
Yeah,
how does that make you feel?
I'm trying to break it down further, and this is the fourth time I'm going to say Mr. Beast again. I think the next time I say it, Mr. Beast, you gotta Venmo me shit. But it's again like even he, after a point, was like, I spent my entire beginning um, figuring out what makes people tick and the algorithm. And he's like, now I just do it based off of like intuition. It's like if I feel strongly about something, I like do it. Um, and to your point, when you said like it's something that makes you feel something, that's whether it's like hatred or something, that's still value, because I have like something to walk away from it. So I think that's like very beautifully said. Like value is anything that makes you feel something. Uh,
Yeah, and people
yeah,
make a big fuss about it because the value as a word is often related to gain. Like you gain something, and for me, like a feeling is it's an act of gaining something, or like you feel something means that you just observed something, like in you,
so
something added.
I'm trying to like break it down. I want to push you to break it down again so we can make it
Yeah.
accessible to people. Where are things where you've damn, now I want to like go back to my social media and like check like which has the highest post and like what feeling they would have had. But can you break down like one or two posts that you feel like
Yeah. No, for sure.
give your POV of like what made like people feel something?
So first, let's break down what feeling means, right? Like when you look at a post, it could make you laugh, smile. It could just be like, okay, it's really cool. I'm gonna take the effort to double click it, and you can argue that double clicking or liking something is the easiest sort of feature or easiest thing to do. Just to show, it's almost like a read receipt, right, on WhatsApp or other platforms. Like
Yeah.
you read it. Um, what you're seeking for is validation from two things. One, validation from the algorithm. So algorithm basically then pushes your content to more people. It's the same across every algorithm. They test out with a small bunch of people. If they like it, then it shows
Yeah.
it to more
Do you
people
want
and so
to
on.
quickly do a detour and explain that? I
Yeah,
was really
sure.
interested
So
when I saw that video.
most algorithms, like there's no point in deciphering the algorithm. The general statement is pretty simple. Every algorithm, like even if you were to design a social media where everyone can post anything, there's only two ways you can do it. One, you show them everything chronologically or like in some sort of sorted way. Second is you only show them stuff that they want to see. As a designer, as a user, you would agree that you only want to see the kind of stuff that you're interested in. So most people, most algorithms kind of work in a similar fashion where they aggregate the content according to your preferences. Now, how do you make content according to other people's preferences? Right? Like that's the whole question. So and there's no simple answer. Like that's everybody's trying to figure that out. So they're not going to solve for that. But what we're going to solve for is how do you get algorithm to aggregate your content? Pretty simple. How do you get more reach? Use all the new features. Anytime a software comes out with a new feature, you know for sure that it's trying to advertise that and it wants content creators to take advantage of it. Sometimes they artificially boost that feature as well. For example, the things they did for Reel, the thing they've done for TikTok videos, the live feature when it came on, that got
Mm.
aggregated. Clubhouse, when they launched new features, that was always on the top. So Clubhouse. Anybody remember that shit? Um, anyway, so what you want to do is always use the new features, and those could be like small little details, like especially when you're putting reels. Like maybe they added a new feature in the sticker section, right? Second is you just make content that your immediate network can boost, right? You just make content that you know that is going to engage people. What are the signs of engagement? They're pretty simple. Like when people like it, when people share it, they comment on it. Even clicking on see more on LinkedIn, from what I know, is a bit of a signal to the algorithm that people want to read the whole
Oh.
thing. Facebook, for example, has often, and if you ever run ads on Facebook, you would know that, like, and Google as well. As you're scrolling through your feed, if you stop there, that is also captured. So, in terms of
Mm.
engagement, like if you stop and read something, and even if you don't interact with it, that is also engagement. I do not know what those ratios and percentages and whatnot, how much it influences
Yeah, yeah.
how far your post gets pushed, but basically these are the few interactions you can have with the post. So you wanna design something for that. So hence why um, hence why you when you design something for the algorithm, you have to consider what is the title, what is the hook, right? Because if you give everything in the first hook, people are just going to read it in one line and go away. So most people try to come up with this like YouTube clickbaity title. And I played that game and I still do it. Like you kind of have to, like it's just the nature of the platform. YouTube, for example, like those titles and those YouTube thumbnails are the ones that get you to click on the 20-minute video.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, in podcast, our headlines matter a lot. You can't click on a headline that doesn't interest you and be expected to be entertained for like 50 minutes straight. Like that's just not going to happen. So anyway, to please the algorithm, these tricks exist. Now, to make content that your immediate network likes, there's going to be a few things that you got to do, right? Build an immediate network. Warm people up to your content. Like when I put something up, and even your favorite content creators, when they put something up, you will always notice a similar sort of comment and like feed in the first few hours, right? And that is intentionally so. Some people have these like closed creator networks where they like boost each other's posts by commenting on them. Some people have just built up trust with their followers that anytime somebody posts, they rush to be the first comment or the first like or whatever.
For
And
sure.
and 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 that builds up over time, right? For somebody posting now, that just trains the algorithm that like in the first few minutes this post is really popping off. If it
Yeah.
pops off more than what it has previously, then it's a signal.
Are you training the algorithm or is the algorithm training you?
The algorithm is training. I'm
I'm
training the
kidding.
people. We've
I'm
talked about
kidding.
this, right?
So yeah, yeah. So to kind of come back to like coming back to making people feel something. So
Yeah,
what do you like in your experience? Let's do those two points in
yeah,
your social media journey where you felt like you've made people feel something or you've felt something personally.
yeah. I used to, maybe a few years ago, I'd only posted like images on Instagram, like of my work, which by trade is just sketches and renderings or product design, work in progress stuff, all that, which is always fun. I realized that it never really allowed people to say more than cool or throw a fire emoji. I was like, what am I doing? Like, am I building an archive for myself online? It just doesn't make sense. Like, I want to build a following because I know the power of building an audience, what that could translate into. It's pretty much like, imagine if you have access to 30,000 people. You can do user surveys, you can reach out to your favorite, mentors and whatnot. And in, the advantages of building an audience, I'm probably not going to reinstate, but everybody knows, like, a person who has 100K followers has far more access than an access and exposure and visibility and potential clients and potential money, and so on, than somebody with like nothing, right? Not to say that with nothing you can't get that. It's just that person has a built-in uh,
Yeah, he has an
bunch of
edge.
channels. In When I was just posting only my work, I was like, there's only two possible ways you can interact with it. One is you can like it, or you don't. And I was like, that's kind of it. Like, I thought to myself, like, what are the other features, like sharing, commenting, like all these exist for a reason. I'm like, oh, my comments basically read like fire or cool or thumbs up, or like
Yeah.
those spammy like
What
DM
software did you
questions.
use?
Or what software did I use? The classic. Um, and then I started changing something. Like, first I started making quick tutorials. I've done that on like a Instagram carousel. And then I started making some reels as well, with sometimes more thoughts. Sometimes those are a bit more literally like a 10-point list on like, here's what I did to achieve this, any questions. And then I realized, like, then people started engaging with them more, because people had questions, right? It was less about the work, it was more about, tell me more, or like, how did you come up to this conclusion, why this thought? And I think, and again, and then people come up with their own interpretations of what they see, which is extremely difficult when you post your work and expect other people to do. What are they going to do, right? So
Yeah.
then in my captions, I started like being a bit more conversational. I started putting more behind the scenes stuff, and that led to more, I guess, A, engagement,
Yeah.
and B, value for me as well, in terms of feedback, in terms of interactions. So
I'd
that's
want to
one.
pick on I would want to pick on your, because my thing was also coming from a similar uh, point of view, is where you said behind the scenes stuff. For me, the part where I was going to say like make people feel something is taking them through a journey. Um, I don't know whether posting consistently beats the algorithm, but there are many times I've followed an account because uh, they come repeatedly on my this thing and they have a journey. It's like a progress that I'm following. Dude, there is this guy who is not drinking fizzy drinks. And he's like, hello, no fizzy drinks for me today. That's his opener.
I
And he has
I know
like
that guy.
and it's so like it's like, it's cute, but there are like other people, the travel vlogger I was mentioning earlier, like even him, it's that determination. Again, like personal story. And I think to your point that what and like even to my content of like uh, behind the scenes or something where I've grown the most. Like I had like 100 followers, and then I've like hit 1,800, and that's after that I stopped posting. But what happened in that thing was that's where I started sharing my journey of like CAD and keyshot skills. So like
3D
those few
skills.
months, yeah. So those few months where like my things kept getting better and better is when I started meeting more and more people, and there were people that were actively giving feedback to me from my stories or repost. And I think that's what made them feel something. Oh, like this guy's trying to do something. Like
Yeah,
let's help him. That is like one way of making people feel something, is like taking them through a journey. And I think journey always adds value. Because
hundred
they've
percent,
seen it.
100%.
If they want to replicate it, they know how to like navigate it.
Literally spot on. It was gonna be my second sort of experience as well. More recently on LinkedIn, when I realized, like, when I share my journey, when I share something that happened to me, how I made decisions. Um, and again, like, I'm not talking about like life and death situations, which sometimes people on LinkedIn do that. Like, I'm just talking about simple stuff, career stuff, like how I moved from internship to job, how I found my job, things like that, like super basic stuff. But the thing is, you got to see this as a game. Otherwise, no one in the. So, firstly, let's actually get this out of the way. Complete tangent. What you see on LinkedIn, no one in the real life speaks like that. Let's just, no
That's
one
true.
ever comes up to like, hey man, here's the 5 things that I learned. Number 1, be persistent. No one speaks like that's just,
Yeah.
it's not human. It's the game, right? Plus, the things that are repeated on LinkedIn is it's the amount of stuff that. So firstly, I think LinkedIn can do with the chat GPT, like, hey, summarize my feed for the day, and I tell you it's going to be the same thing every day, right? That is where I think like you need to follow the creators that are putting out actionable, targeted content, and that's where you need to follow like niche creators rather than your general be happy, sleep well kind of creators. Those are too
Yeah.
big.
Sort of like use the algorithm to your
Yeah,
benefit.
train the algorithm so
Sure.
that it can help you.
Before we kind of get into a huge, deep LinkedIn rant, let's try to wrap up this conversation around value and making people feel something. So, like, what are your sort of closing notes and thoughts on these?
Yeah, most people think that they need to have tens of years of experience before they can post, whether it's on Instagram or LinkedIn. More so on LinkedIn because it's the professional network. But adding value, making content doesn't have to be that serious. It doesn't have to be about design advice or advice in general. It could be your journey. It could be how authentic you are. It could be your process, things you found interesting, things you have read that other people could find value in. People just make such a big deal about like, oh, I don't know what to post on LinkedIn, which tells me that people want to post. It's just that they don't know what the definition of value is, which honestly people have poisoned this whole thing. Like you need to have really a formatted LinkedIn post to post, but it's just untrue. So my closing remarks is that when you see other people's content and other people's way of writing, please do not take that as the only way to write and only way to make content. Value is what you have to offer and what feelings, like we have been discussing what feelings you want to impart on other people.
For me, I've never thought about value. I'm very like a brute force kind of guy. So I've just like posted what I felt like, and then like I archive it if I'm not like vibing with it. So I feel again, social media was not made with rules of like.
Do you mean feeling cute might delete later?
Yeah, I've done that multiple times, guys. I realized I didn't actually feel. I was not feeling cute at that point, and then I had to archive it. But I'd say it's kind of interesting. Like to sum it up, like social media was not made on like rules that this is the kind of obviously the hard rules are there, like don't spam stuff, but there was no way of like, oh, this is the only type of content you'd like and stuff. Like incentives came later. Even I have a friend who's researching for Instagram, and all Instagram wants to do is like make people share whatever they make. And I'm sure if you're consistent and if you want to keep it going, you'll figure out that pattern. You're like, once you start focusing on that, your brain is going to figure out how to make it work. So if you like something and if you feel it's beautiful, share it and tag us.
Pay us money.
So yeah,
$1 every time you post. I've taken so many tips from social media and use it in my like social life in general. It never works. Hardly ever works, man. No one speaks like that. I just went in like, hey, do you know what the 5 secrets to happy, healthy life is? Nobody wants to listen to me. Surprise.
Work-life balance. For sure. We've spoken about current state, how you started, how I started, how we are using social media. But we've discussed this in the past. We're seeing an interesting thing happening, which is the rise of creator designer.
Do you want to describe what the creator designer is?
For sure. And we did it, guys. This is the 5th time I'm mentioning Mr. Beast's name. So I'd say creator designer is someone, I'd say like even you, for example, who is trying to build a brand or some like an actual product or service, and they have amassed distribution by just being and posting on social media. And I think the best, I'd say like the North Star example is Mr. Beast, who just did YouTube for the sake of YouTube and then used his audience when he made like brands and consumables. Like he already built distribution, so he's using that. So it's sort of like self-fulfilling prophecy where he makes stuff, they consume it, and then it kind of and it helps his content.
That's really interesting because like Mr. Beast, the way I see it is like from a creator, he went to a designer. I mean, not this, let's say a brand owner, entrepreneur.
Whoa, but whoa. Like, I spent shit ton of money on my degree. You just can't throw that title everywhere.
On the other end is people like you and me who are like building our podcast, are following the designers who are trying to be creators, right? But you're right, like the future belongs to at least in the creative entrepreneur space, is like the future belongs to someone who can do both successfully. And you're right, like you own the distribution at the end of the day, which means you launch whatever it is, a burger brand, a product, a service, podcast, then you have a built-in audience already, right? So you wouldn't have to fight for that press PR thing or whatever that is, because you own your audience in the sense. You can argue and be like, the platforms own your audience, but people are building newsletters, people are building like their followings away from these platforms. So
yeah, for sure. And I think this sort of like creator designer phenomena is already happening in few niche places, which like artists, especially, they have their own thing going on for them. Fashion designers, I've seen them do like a limited drop, especially if they're like bootstrapped with their own sewing machine. They do like limited, like 10 to 12 pieces. All of them are sold out every time I'm there. So it's already manifesting in few places. And it's only a matter of time it extends to like consumer products and stuff.
Yeah, my dream would be to be a creator designer as well, like somebody who's making content for fun and then also designing for fun. Wait, so where does the money come from?
Oh yeah, and get paid because we're having fun.
Miss that part of the equation.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have it?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yep, we have it. And like as usual, the most important part of the podcast, what do we name it?
Get paid to post online.
Mr. Beast of Industrial Design.
Oh shit, that's not a bad one.
How to be the Mr. Beast of Design.